Like to reconvene open session at 5:40. Report action taken in closed session. By a vote of 4-1, trustees voted to ratify the termination of one certificated teacher effective April 20th, 2023. Okay, we will now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Oh,
okay.
we should wait for it.
I think they're gonna speak.
On now.
Hi there. My name is Mrs. North and I'm at Stanford Avenue School and I have 4 representatives from our student leadership wearing their shirts and they are here to lead the Pledge of Allegiance in ASL as well.
Hi, my name is Lily. Saying the Pledge of Allegiance has former connection to our country, the United States of America.
Hi, my name is Scarlett. We are a country with a diverse population. Saying the Pledge of Allegiance instills a sense of patriotism for all people.
Hi, my name is Sam.
And my name is Stephen.
When we say the Pledge of Allegiance, we honor the flag and everything it represents.
We say the Pledge of Allegiance to start our day at school, to begin official meetings or ceremonies, and even at special events like ball games.
We would like to lead you in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand.
Salute.
Pledge.
And Stephen for pledge.
Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and
Thank you so much.
Families, if you'd like to gather up your children, you can leave now. We would love for you to stay, please stay, but we understand that our meetings aren't as fun as the kids.
Yeah, you know, this ain't dinner, so.
Thank you very much for coming. We appreciate you supporting our students at Stanford. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move to the comment session, comments and announcements by board members.
Oh, yeah, you can't have a bad day.
Jessica?
Are we doing comments?
Yes.
Sorry. It just brings me so much joy to watch to hear the children speak. I've noticed the playground at Ophir Elementary School, the kindergarten looks really fun. Yay. And I just would like to thank our teachers for, sticking it out. We have a couple more weeks of school left and it's coming down to the wire, warmer weather and fun to be had. And yeah, everything is looking bright and sunny. So I hope that's for everyone.
Yeah. Sandra?
So yeah, I just concur with Jessica. You can't have a bad day when there's kiddos around. You just can't. Even when they're having a bad day, I don't ever have a bad day. It always seems to turn around whenever there's kiddos around. Past month, I've been to 2 LCAP meetings, which have been incredibly productive. We covered the task scores, which identified some areas that we needed to improve upon, which is great. That's half the battle, in my humble opinion. Also, the parents who have attended also were able to identify some problem areas that we needed to address as well. So yeah, very productive meetings. Very happy to have gone.
Bill?
I have none, thank you.
I did attend the supportive climate advisory. We did have we had a lot of fun. We didn't want it to end. We have parents that came. We hope to have more parents come and be supportive of that as well. We did learn, did speak about, we had Lauren come as a speaker, and she did talk about historical circles and the language that they're using with the kids. And so that was very informational. I really enjoyed that. I just, we're down to the wire. Kids are getting anxious for summer, for the summer, and teachers are getting anxious to have that last day so they can have summer. So I just appreciate all the teachers that we have. Also on a personal note, Shalene is my daughter, and she has been in this district since she was in Head Start. She is now she's now a sophomore. She did go to states, and she is a gymnast for Orville. She represents Orville. And she did come second on vault in the whole all state in her division, third on uneven bars, which is really cool, and seventh all around. And that's for all of the state of California. And all the kids did great. We have nothing but rock stars at the gym. So I just want to congratulate those kids, because a lot of them are in our district as we speak. So continue the kids to have activities in their life, because that keeps them steady. Sharon?
I have nothing to report.
Okay. Comments and announcements by administration.
Thank you. First of all, ditto to everything that's been shared by our board. I ran one of our latest LCAP meetings with parents, and it was scheduled for an hour and a half, and I think we went almost to 2 hours, because we had such good interaction with everybody who was part of the conversation. And so thank you so much for those who have been participating, and we welcome any feedback as we move forward with things that we can improve on or continue to do well on in the district. I know my two assistants are going to cover a couple different areas, but I did want to let the community know that today and tomorrow we have a visitation from the Department of Justice, and our visit today went extremely well. And Janet will kind of expand possibly a little bit more on that, but I wanted to thank them for coming and supporting our district. Also want to commend Andrew and Jim Campolo, our Director of Maintenance and Operations, and his entire staff, doing a great job with all the upgrades and the happenings at our site. I was especially pleased with the pictures that we have regarding the reflective coverings for our kindergarten playgrounds. I know the board has seen those upgrades in pictures, and we're looking to do that throughout the district. But we wanted to kind of have a couple pilots programs and to see how they really worked and looked, and they look phenomenal. So thank you to that department for their good work. And I would be remiss, I was reminded this week that this Friday is administrative assistant or secretary's appreciation, and huge shout out to my executive assistants, Kim and Sandra, for all that they do for me and our district. And my wife was appreciative that I gave her a heads up that this Friday is that day, because usually I'm last second with that. And just so that you know, I never buy them anything, but my wife does, and they prefer it that way, actually. So thank you.
Comments by the public?
Oh, no.
Oh, I'm sorry. Andrew.
Andrew and then Janet.
Good evening, everybody. Spencer said most of the stuff I was going to say. Over the break, we did have Ishii Hills Middle School repainted, so it looks nice and sharp. The solar reflective asphalt covering is like a paint that goes over the top of asphalt. And if you've seen it before. You've seen it like when you go to Chico and they have the green bike lanes. So you've seen it on asphalt before. In a LA Unified, they do this on their playgrounds. And it helps to reduce the heat on the playgrounds. It also helps to reduce the heat overall, air temperature, because that asphalt, that black asphalt will absorb all of that heat and then let it out as the day cools. So it's still hot on the blacktop. So those solar reflective surfaces have a lot of benefits. They also don't have to be resurfaced for a lot longer than regular asphalt. And they're bright and colorful. And so we're piloting the two. If successful, we're hoping to roll those out. I think the hope is to do re-asphalt the entire playground at Oakdale Heights over the summer, and that would be part of that. So we would see an entire playground done, which would be really exciting. So we're hopeful that the pilots work well. I think they look snappy. So we'll see how they hold up. They should hold up really well. I mean, they're meant for cars to go over them, so it should, elementary school kids shouldn't destroy it, but we'll see.
Very creative.
And I do want to also thank Eileen Chewy Dugan, who's my executive assistant. I don't know how I would function without her. So
Thank you. Janet?
Good evening. I would like to just add on a little bit about the DOJ visit. It's going very well. They're here, like Dr. Holtum said, they were here for today, and then they'll be here half day tomorrow. They are very positive about the changes that they're seeing. So they can visibly go on campus, and we've been doing a lot of campus supervisor trainings this last couple of years. They can see how the adults are treating the students in a very respectful way as they're getting them to do what they want them to do. And they are noticing that there is more SEL, more diversity, in terms of acknowledgement and signage. They are seeing a huge contrast in terms of how calm the campuses are versus when they came for the initial. So we do have Laura Fair visiting, and she was one of the initial investigators in the DOJ complaint. And very positive about the contrast of what she's seeing. So that's been very positive. On the LCAP, I'm pretty much done with all the community input. I do want to thank Dr. Holtum and Mrs. Albrecht. I was out sick for a few days, and so they covered for me on some meetings. So I appreciate that. And for announcements, I just want to let you know that the Supportive School Climate Meeting has been moved to May 2nd, and it's from 5 to 7. 5 o'clock, we have dinner. 5:30, we start our meeting, and it'll be at Central in room 24. So hope the public, anybody interested comes. Staff is welcome to come. Anybody is welcome to come to those meetings. And that's our last meeting for the year. So I think that's it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Any comments by the public? Okay, at this time, the board will extend invitation to the interested party who wish to speak on matters which are school related. For those attending remotely who wish to comment, use your raise your hand button to be called on to speak. Comments or questions may also be emailed to backpack@ocesd.net. Please include your first and last name in your email. Comments and questions received will be read into the record and or addressed during the meeting. However, comments received without the sender's name will not be shared during the meeting. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person or 20 minutes per subject. Okay, we're on to presentations.
We don't have any public comment at this time. I have nothing in backpack or email, so
Okay,
yes.
thank you. Central Studios. Mhm.
Sharon, can you still hear us?
Yes, I can.
Okay, we're just having some technical difficulty bringing up a presentation, so
Thank you.
And if you put everything to the report, it will show up.
This is the presentation.
Oh,
Yeah. The presentation is.
Let's change our fate here.
So Rob, did you want to start your presentation while we figure out, or do we need the PowerPoints?
I would say we'll need it by the time we get to the maps. It will probably be good to have them displayed, but I can start doing some of the introductions and housekeeping.
Okay.
is it still? Yeah.
So you go ahead and do. So you can do that.
So we're gonna have a presentation on the draft trustee area maps.
All right, well, thank you. See, is this everyone able to hear well enough?
Yes.
All right, good. Well, it's good to be here again. Thank you for, I think Andrew kind of ran the second public hearing when I wasn't able to be here, but I should be here with you the rest of the way through this process. But again, for anyone watching at home or watching this video after tonight, my name is Rob Murray. I am the Director of Demographics at King Consulting. And what we're doing tonight is looking at the process and the initial maps for creating trustee areas for future board elections. So we gotta keep this pretty straightforward tonight. This is just, I'll get into the whole creation and process, but the main thing is this one is not a public hearing. This is really informational. This is me presenting the initial maps that we've come up with and just me being here to just answer any just practical questions about those maps. Give everyone a month to digest what you see tonight, and then we'll come back with a public hearing. And so again, here is that full schedule that we anticipate. Again, we're not, the only real firm thing on here is the November 2024 election. When pulling back to that, there is still plenty of time should the board wish to push this past July, but as it is, we are on track to wrap up the process by July. Again, here at the April meeting, we are presenting those initial maps after having previously held 2 public hearings to solicit input on ways that those maps might look, things that they might take into consideration. And again, we are now required, after we've presented these maps, to hold at least 2 public hearings, after which the board is free and clear to go ahead and adopt one of those maps, which I will then coordinate with the county elections office. We've already been in touch through Andrew, and same gentleman I've worked with for some other districts in Butte County. And then by November of 2024, you would see this playing with the out in practice with the first elections of board members whose terms would be up at that point. So with that, I would say let's go ahead and get into the options. I went ahead and just based on some of that input had 4 options that I initially came up with. Just wanted to give a summary here. So I tend to just make my maps just named by primary colors. There's no particular ranking. I tend to just put them up in the order that they kind of occurred to me or that I had notes for things that we were going to consider. But each of these maps should just be considered as a starting point for a conversation. But broadly, what we're going through is the blue map. Always, I find it very intuitive to see how well major roads can be used to define trustee areas. That tends to make it very easy for people to understand on this side or that side of Oroville Dam Road or of Indian River of Olive, of any of the major roads. It's just very easy to tell which side of that you're on. What you'll see as we go further over to the right, total variance. Now, this is that number you may remember from our pre-map hearings. You are allowed up to a 10% total variance, and that's the size basically between the largest and the smallest trustee areas by population. And the way we calculate that, you'll see it on the detailed sheets, but we have what the pure average would be. We have what percent over that the biggest area is, what percent under that the smallest area is. Those two percentages can't be more than 10. And so you see we're up to 9.9 on one of these, but everything here is within the thresholds. And then finally, because it was something that we had discussed at the pre-map hearings, precise locations aren't shown on the maps, but I did have the addresses of the 5 current board members. And just here you can just see the blue, green, and purple maps. There is no grouping of any current board members, so everyone would have the opportunity to run and be reelected by trustee area. In the orange map, there is a grouping of a couple of board members. And so now going back to the explanations, so again, blue is the major roads. Green, we did have one comment about making sure that the foothill region was really firmly represented by a couple of different areas. And so this is a map that starts with that and then works the rest of the map out. The purple map is one that, there'll always be some version of this map that I do for everyone, and that is to really look at the census ethnicity data that we have and kind of going to the fullest extent that we can while still making practical maps that are reasonably compact and have contiguous areas, but that will maximize those concentrations of some ethnic groups in Oroville City Elementary School District. That is primarily looking at, and again, just by census classifications, Hispanic or Latino persons and Asian persons. And then the orange map is one that will use the school boundaries of your 4 elementary schools to help inform the trustee areas. So with that, what you're going to see on each of these is there'll be one map that is zoomed out to show the entire extent of the district. There will be a second map that will zoom in more onto Oroville there in the western part of the district, where there tends to be a bit more detail. And then there will be a table that shows some of that just high-level demographic data. So we'll go ahead and present those. Again, the blue map, this is the one that is based on major roads. And so we'll go ahead and get to the more zoomed in version. And what you can, so I apologize. If it would be helpful, I can go ahead and make some versions of these that have some larger labels. As now that I'm standing here looking at it from this distance, it is a little hard to see what some of those are. But yeah, here we go. I'm just going to use my hard copy here. So thank you for your patience. But using Oroville Dam Road, which is why you do have that what looks like kind of a finger area coming up that is just following along a major road. And then within Oroville, still managing to use all major roads for the most part to define those boundaries. And then just kind of going up along some parcel lines where you're still kind of separating major streets that run either east or west towards other major roads. To define some of those other boundaries. But again, this would be the shape of the trustee areas under this map. One thing that I will go ahead and mention now is that while I'm presenting all of these as maps, ultimately at this process, the board will be selecting a map and a sequence of elections. And so again, on all the maps where one current member of the board would be residing in each trustee area, that would be the most straightforward process. We would just align each area to the term of the board member who resides there. And that way everyone, when their term is up, would have the opportunity to run. And so we, once we get to the next public hearings, I like to just show the maps first, get a sense of how much feedback or changes there might be, and then we can start also displaying a suggested election sequence on future versions of this. And now on to the big batch of data. I'm not going to read all of this, but just again to explain what we're looking at. Up at the top in white and present on all 4 map options are the district-wide totals of 29,280 persons recorded by the census and the split by race and ethnicity. And then you can compare that with what you have in each of the 5 trustee areas. So for example, looking at the Asian column where you have 7.2% district-wide, you see in trustee area 1, about 14.5% Asian, so more than twice the concentration for that community within that trustee area. And then over on the far right, you have that variance ranging from area 2, which is 5.8% larger than what the pure average would be, down to area 5, which is 3% smaller. And that's how you get the 8.8% total variance, which is just the highest value and the lowest value, not added to each other directly, but just what those differences from 0 are added together. So 5.8 and 3 gives you the 8.8. So that's kind of how we get to some of the numbers that we're talking about. But what you'll see on all these maps is everything that satisfies the main reason under the Voting Rights Act for pursuing these, of the equal populations within the accepted level of variance, and some amount of concentration of a community whose vote would be amplified by voting within a trustee area rather than at large throughout the district. So then onto the green map. So in this case, we are looking at the Oroville-Quincy Highway running all the way through to the edge of the district and keeping that kind of the foothill area off to the east, split between 2 areas, rather than being predominantly in one area as it is, I believe, in to much more of an extent than this, at least in all the other maps. And then again, that zoomed in version for then what that leaves for the remainder of the district with the 3 areas that are predominantly in Oroville. And so a different look from what's in the first map. And again, I will go ahead and get some versions of these that have some very clear and prominent labels so that it makes it a little bit easier for people to see exactly where some of these lines are falling. Yes. Because school district boundaries are oftentimes very little, if anything, to do with where city boundaries fall, even with names of school districts. So if you know Sacramento at all, I live in Rancho Cordova. We're in the Elk Grove School District. And so for school district elections, elections will have ballots that will, everyone who's in your school district will get your election, whether they live in the city or not. And that's actually what's neat is when I'm really in there playing with the census tracts is pretty much any division of any, every city limit, every school district boundary, every parks and recreation district, like anyone that has a boundary, the census blocks, follow those lines exactly so that you always have the exact number of people in any kind of special district. So that's one thing that at least makes my job slightly easier. But yes, I don't have the city boundary shown on here, but yes, you do have some areas that are outside the city, and I will have to double check. There might even be some areas of the city that aren't in your district. But this election will be, that number that I gave you earlier of the 29,280, that's the population that resides in the school district footprint. Okay, and then you see, don't need to go through, but you have a largest area of 3.7, smallest of -5.2. And again, you see some concentration, again, mostly focusing in the Latino and Asian, where there was the ability to see some evidence of real geographic concentration. And certainly in some of the other categories, you can also see that in effect. Okay, and then the purple map. So this is the one where we really were focusing on creating an area that would maximize that concentration, which is your area 2 in this map. And then other areas, and again, just giving a different look, given that this map really started with that shape for area 2 as the one that would just go ahead and jump to here, but move up to 15% of that trustee area identifying as Asian in the census, above 19% as Latino or Hispanic. And this one also is the most balanced in terms of areas, with 3.7% over as the highest and 2.9% under as the lowest. But then just going back, again, just you have the other, each area has its own shape. Each is roughly the same total population. And as in the summary, each of them would also allow all 5 current members to run should they so wish without having to run against each other. And finally, the orange map was one that was done with the school boundaries in mind. Again, I will also have this version digital and available on the website. I had the thought shortly before I came here to go ahead and superimpose those school boundaries. I'll pass this out in a moment. I apologize to our member who is remote, but we will get this digital by tomorrow so that everyone can just see how this works a little better. But what you really have is that blue trustee area 1 there. Is entirely in the Stanford Avenue boundary, which is a large school boundary. Area 2 is Wyandotte. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Wonderful. So all of the Wyandotte boundary is in area 2, but that wasn't enough people to be its own area. So it extends all the way to the corner of the district in the southwest and a little bit up on the other side of the Oroville Highway to some of the area that's in the Stanford Avenue boundary, which again has so many people in it. And then number 3 there is really the Oakdale Heights, which the school boundary does kind of curve around that corner and extend some to the south. But again, not enough people there to be its own boundary, and so just has to extend into some other areas. And then area 4 just kind of fills in the rest of the Stanford Avenue boundary that's left and goes some into Ophir, and then everything in area 5 is in the Ophir boundary. But again, too many people in that boundary, so the area has to be a little bit smaller. And we kind of knew that wasn't going to be a perfect fit since you have 4 school boundaries and 5 trustee areas. But this is the closest look at that. But of course, having that kind of more high level overriding thing with the school boundaries and just where the current board lives, and honoring the wish to see a map that really tried to closely follow the school boundaries, there wasn't a good way to have all the current board members in their own area. So that is the big trade-off with this particular map. But otherwise, again, we're kind of maxing out the variance. We do have a minus 6.5%, but since the largest one is only 3.4, we're still within 10 total. And then there is still some concentration and amplification of the voting power of some key groups based on race and ethnicity. So that is the initial presentation of the maps. I think the point here tonight is to make sure that you have the opportunity to ask any clarifying questions. You can certainly state some opinions, but we'll have the formal public hearing when we're back next month. But if there are any, certainly questions about anything at all, I'm happy to answer them. And then certainly also happy to just note any suggestions for any future possible changes or new maps or anything else. Of course, outside of the formal public hearing setting. So thanks.
Can I ask a question?
Yes.
Do we have an overlay visual of the current map that could be compared to the changes?
There is no current map.
There's no current.
So we
Yeah.
don't have a current map. Right now, all of our positions are at large. So anybody, regardless of where you live right now, as long as you live within
So this is to establish boundaries. for
this
that.
is
Okay.
the purely established boundaries. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, and that's sort of why it was, I didn't know until I looked, but that was the question of how feasible is it that all the current board who were all elected, as long as you lived in the school district, could run, and everyone in the district all voted. As it works out, don't live particularly close to each other. So it did make it not at all difficult for most of the maps to cleanly just draw those and have that part work out. And just to be clear, it was never the overriding factor in any map. It was always starting with something else and then seeing if that could be among the factors that could be incorporated. And like I said, for 3 of the 4 maps, that turned out to be the case.
So, and I think that's, I realize we're moving to trustee boundaries, but for the most part, 3 of the maps that he's showing right now shows us right now as a really good representation of our entire community. Because like he was sharing, you guys all live in different areas of the city and well represented. And just pointed out as a point of interest.
Okay. Thank you. Do we have any more questions? Sharon?
No.
Well, we want to thank you for your presentation and thank you for bringing that to attention. And we enjoy the maps. They're really,
All right.
thank you for putting
Well,
such detail.
Yeah, well, thank you very much. It's my pleasure, and I'll be back next month and we'll formally talk about them. I'll just one more point before I finally cede my time here. But just kind of in terms of what I envision a little more specifically, when we get to that first public hearing, is if there's 1 or 2 of the maps that people think just don't seem to get any public support and that members of the board just don't feel like there's much support for, we might even start narrowing at that point. You don't get to make a decision, but you can certainly say, like, I don't think we need to keep focusing on this one, and let's really make it a conversation between 2 finalists. Not that has to happen, but just to kind of let you know how this can play out. Or it could go the other way and you could get a lot of people turning up. We could have a lot of ideas. Someone could say something that really isn't reflected in a map and we could wind up with more maps by the second hearing. We'll just see how that all goes. But what will definitely happen is I'll be here on May 10th and we'll hear from whoever has something to say. And that will make it a little easier to go from there. And in the meantime, I will have some new versions in the maps that make it a little easier to identify what streets serve as the boundaries. And I'll pass these hard copies over now, but I'll make sure that the one for the orange map that overlays the school boundaries is also available, just so people can see what I was trying to just describe verbally there. So, okay. If there's nothing else, though, thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay,
Thank you.
move on to action items.
Mhm.
So there's some action items. The action items, the board will extend an invitation to the interested parties who wish to speak on items that are listed on the agenda. For those attending remotely who wish to comment, use the raise your hand button to be called on to speak. Comments may also be emailed to backpack.ocesd.net. Please include your first and last name in your email. Comments received that pertain to items listed on the agenda will be read into the record during this time. However, comments received without the sender's name will not be read. The Brown Act does not allow the governing board to discuss or take action on any item that is not posted on the agenda. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person and 20 minutes per subject. Move.
Then you say, do we have any comment?
Do we have any comments? Do we have any emails on Backpack?
No.
Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. Minutes of the March 8th, 2023.
So the consent agenda.
Does anybody on the board have any questions or any comments on the consent agenda?
I have some questions concerning letter I, the memorandum of understanding with OETA versus the 2320. Is it I? It is. There's some terms that I'm just not familiar with.
So she's speaking about the memorandum of understanding with the Oroville Elementary Teachers Association regarding special education class size.
Yes. I know what SDC is. Go ahead and explain what SDC is for everybody, just in case there's somebody.
That is a special day class. And just for the information for those who are part of the board meeting, the state of California is in the process of moving from resource and special day course, special day class to different terminology, ESSN and MS, not ESN and MSN.
Right,
Yeah,
yeah. on
the one day
here-
our special ed, anyway, they're going to new acronyms. And I'm sorry that off the top of my head, I can't remember the acronyms. But we'll go to your question.
So MMSN, what does that mean?
So that is the mild. And
Oh,
what
okay.
used to be the mild to moderate. And the ESN is the more extensive, what is the old mod to severe.
Okay.
And the
Then,
support needs, so mild, moderate support needs and extensive support needs.
Thank you.
now, are these numbers new or are we increasing or decreasing or staying flat?
No,
or-
this is a memorandum of understanding that we've had for several years with OETA, and this is just a renewal of that. So we haven't changed any of our numbers from past years. This is something that we, on an annual basis, go back, and every year we kind of revisit the numbers based on changes in special education, and there's no changes from past years.
Does anyone else have any questions?
Summer school sessions, letter H. I was wondering if maybe you could clarify the breakdown of one's day. I mean, that's wildly specific. The day before summer school begins for an 8-hour day, 3 1/2 hours are administrative, 30 minutes are for free lunch. First of all, is that long enough for lunch?
That's standardly what's in the contract for the
Okay.
lunch.
4 hours are for prep time, fine. And the 2 hours for cleaning and vacating the classrooms, is that gonna be enough for them? Doesn't
So
seem like very long.
this was done through the negotiation process
Okay.
of making
Okay.
sure that
Just making sure.
we went through the whole process of kind of breaking down the extra days when, before and after the start of and end of summer school, so that we wanted to make sure that they had ample time to prepare, ample time to pack up and things like
Yes.
that. And we came to an agreement.
Okay, just making sure.
Any more questions? Okay. Can I get a motion to approve the consent agenda?
And we'll do a roll call vote because we have Sharon remote.
Okay.
So moved.
I second. All those in favor?
So, Madam Vice President, we'll do a roll call because we have Sharon remote.
Gotcha. Okay, we'll do a roll call. Sharon?
Aye.
Lisa? Aye. Jessica?
Yes.
Sandra?
Aye.
Bill?
Yes.
Okay, it's passed with 5 yeses and no nos. Okay, we're on to new business. Approved certified job description for teacher coach position.
Do you want me to take it? So this job description came about when we received some effectiveness educator grant money. And I met with some teachers in the district. Anybody interested could come to a meeting and we brainstormed and talked about what they wanted. And part of that that came out of that meeting was that they really wanted to see a teacher who could go in and work with our interns and our first and second year teachers in particular, modeling how to do lessons and giving feedback and helping them with more support so they can really get their classroom management set up and just different things. So from that, then we created a job description, met with the union and got an agreement on what that job description would be. And this would be for, we're hoping for the next 3 years, we'll be able to have this position and it will be funded through the educator effectiveness grant money. But tonight, you're going to be voting on the job description itself.
Okay, does anybody have any questions? Okay, when somebody likes motion,
So moved.
Okay, we'll do a roll call. Sharon,
Aye.
Lisa, I, Jessica,
Yes.
Sandra,
Aye.
Bill.
Yes.
Okay, we have 5 yeses and no. Okay, adopt and approve revised board policies, administrative regulation.
So you see that there are several board policies that are coming forth that really focus around transitional kindergarten. And the reason for the changes is that a year ago, there were a lot of rules and regulations that had been changed by the state legislature. So this new policies that you're looking at, a couple of them have logistical, but there's one board policy in particular that has quite a few of the changes, which reflects the law. I did show this to our TK teachers or kindergarten teachers, so they're aware of the new policy. Some of the pieces in that talks about the eligibility date, you know, how we're rolling back, they have to turn 5. So it delineates that out. It talks about having a program that would be 3 or 4 hours unless you're aligned with ELOP, which we are. So we have a kindergarten program that's a full day program. It talks about the child to adult ratio. It originally came out 1 to 12. The goal was to go 1 to 10, you know, with if the legislature approved the funding. And it talks about that we would be doing an assessment, which is created by the OCESD. And so next year we would be implementing that, and it would be a way of looking at the development of the students and how they're progressing on major milestones. And it would be in the areas of self-regulation, language and literacy, cognitive, you know, math and science, and physical health, which would be large motor skills, small motor skills, things like that. So there's an assessment WestEd has put out that we would use that to help measure how the kids are progressing. And that pretty much summarizes the big changes in the policies that you're seeing coming forward tonight.
And I just want to reiterate that the vast majority of the changes aligns with the changes that the state or the state legislature has made.
Do they have an explanation as to why the birth date requirements change from year to year?
They were doing, so what they want to do is they're adding an extra year of program to the school. So the kids, in essence, will be having a program that will have mostly 4-year-olds in it. And so the reason they did that is a slow rollout like that. It had to do with funding because you're adding more kids each year. So it was really that.
Okay. Are there any more questions? Like anybody makes motion?
So moved.
I second. Roll call. Sharon,
Aye.
Lisa, I, Jessica,
Yes.
Sandra,
Aye.
Bill.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
5 yeses and no nos. Okay, approve 2023-24 comprehensive safety plan.
Okay, Patrick O'Brien, who is the principal at Stanford Avenue Elementary School, is our principal in charge of the comprehensive safety plan for the district. In larger districts, each school has to have its own safety plan, but because we are a smaller district, we can do a comprehensive safety plan that encompasses the whole district. Every year we kind of add different nuances and changes to our comprehensive safety plan, depending on changes in the laws and the changes in our need in the district. Our comprehensive safety plan this year pretty much reflects our plan from last year. We changed some of our data and we just kind of updated some of the needs and changes, but for the most part, it's exactly the same plan from last year. The only caveat to some of that is the fact that with Patrick back, we're going to be starting to have our district safety plans again, where we have a district safety committee that's constantly making changes or nuances. And each year we'll add, if it's applicable, those changes into our comprehensive safety plans. For example, this year, we made a determination that we are going to remove lock blocks from our classrooms. Additionally, fencing, we're upgrading and increasing our fencing, and all of that may not be specifically highlighted in our comprehensive safety plan, but it is in the overall safety plan, for example, where we try to limit and have better supervision over our ingress, egress of our campuses, and fencing specifically addresses those kind of issues. So any questions?
Okay, anyone likes motion?
What is the purpose of the lock block?
Oh, so the lock blocks are what we put on doors that you can move, and they're kind of glued to the door. And when you flip it, when a kid goes to the restroom, it keeps the door ajar a little bit, so they can go to the restroom and come back, and they don't have to knock on the door. And so it keeps the doors ajar. As a district safety committee, we made the recommendation to remove those from all of our exterior classroom doors, so that the idea is if someone is an intruder on campus, all those doors are ajar and they can have better exposure to getting into the classrooms. Eliminating those helps our security because all of our exterior doors for classrooms are locked. And so when a kid goes to the restroom, the door closes behind them. And then if they want to get back in, they just knock on the door, and it limits access to unwanted visitors. Is that clear? Thank you. Pardon? Oh,
Any questions? Can we have a motion?
Second.
We'll do a roll call. Sharon?
Aye.
Lisa? Aye. Jessica?
Yes.
Sandra?
Aye.
Bill?
Yes.
5 yeses and no nos. Review quarterly report of district compliance with education code, section 35186, uniform complaint procedures.
so this is our annual or quarterly Williams Compliance Act, and we have no negative findings or no findings.
Okay. So that is not,
Oh. We do go.
it doesn't have a place.
No, it's procedural.
Action item.
Okay, there's nothing else. Meeting is adjourned at 6:34.
Thank you, Miss Lisa.
Thank you.
Yeah.